2.
My name is Mandy Thompson, MandyThonpson, and it's December 13th, 2016.
Well, Mandy, what brought you to Teen Challenge?
What brought me to Teen Challenge was a 3-year meth addiction and broken marriage.
Your life that led up to your drug addiction. When did it actually start?
My drug addiction? My drug addiction started when I was 18 after I had my first child with my husband. First of all, it was smoking pot, and then it led up to taking pills, and then after my third daughter, October 1st, 2012, I started using meth, which completely spiraled my life out of control. The reason I started using meth was because I got a phone call from my mother, which completely rocked my world.
And whose phone call was that again?
It was a phone call from my mother, just telling me every gruesome detail of my childhood, from being raped to the age of 4, and just her not wanting me because I was nothing like her other children.
So, is there anything that makes you uncomfortable to share? Just let me know.
Yes, ma'am.
And everything, and if we have permission to use any of it, if you're okay with that also.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So it was you that your mom was talking about, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So, do you remember any of it?
Bits and pieces. Some of the things that she told me I didn't remember, and some of the things that I did remember, I asked her, and she confirmed that they were true. From watching my brother and my cousins sexually abuse me in our yard and really not doing much about it. Using drugs in front of us, taking us to parties, one in which I witnessed a murder. A man jumped from a tree and stabbed another man 7 times to death over a beer.
Were there any good memories of your family life prior to your drug addiction?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, could you tell us a story when your addiction or life was at its worst?
At its worst was I went to jail for 17 days because I refused to pay a ticket for not having insurance, and for that I was supposed to be on probation, checking in, and I didn't do so. So the night of this occurrence, I was getting into my vehicle at 3 o'clock in the morning when a cop came and asked me what I was doing at my own vehicle at 3 o'clock in the morning. I gave him the wrong name, and once he found out who I was, he read my name and was made aware that I had a warrant out for my arrest. For the first time in my life, I went to jail for 17 days. I sat there, and it's the first time I ever experienced a sound mind. I could not get an image of my children in my mind, an image of my husband in my mind. The only thing that I could possibly think of was just figuring out how I could get out and not having any way to contact any of my family. After going to court 4 times, I believe, I was told that I would sit an extra 7 days, when thankfully my mother-in-law, Barry Perry, she came and bailed me out of jail. She gave me the rest of the money to get out of jail. And I have begged God if He would just get me out of jail, I would no longer do drugs. After getting out of jail, I went to Vance Ford and waited on my husband. My husband then took us to our drug dealer's house. After I specifically told him that I did not want to do drugs any longer, he stated, let's just do it one more time so we can have a fun night. And my life completely spiraled out of control. The 2 weeks leading up to me calling my sister-in-law and deciding to leave my husband and everything else behind, I used methamphetamines more than 5 times a day without being able to get high and not understanding why. Now I realize it's because I asked God to get me out of jail. And He did, and I bargained with Him and told Him that if He would just get me out of jail, I would no longer do drugs. And by me doing that, my life was 7 times worse than it had ever been. And on 3 days before Halloween 2015, I took everything out of our trailer, mine and my girls' belongings, and took them to a friend's house. There I stayed until Halloween, and decided I just wanted to change that I knew nothing the world had to offer me could give me. So I called my sister-in-law November 1st, 2015, and asked, first when I called her, it was to get help for my husband, not for myself. I was deathly afraid for his life. I watched him do more meth than I've ever seen anybody do and not do anything to him. So she agreed to come and do an intervention. So November 3rd, 2015, she came, and moral of the story is he claimed that he did not have a problem. He blamed me for everything and said that I threw him under the bus and that I was cause of the downfall of our marriage. At that point, I really didn't know where to turn, what to do, so I agreed to go with my sister-in-law, Shane's sister, to our house with my 3 children. Between November 3rd, 2015 and November 18th, 2015, I did everything that I knew to do to get into Freedom House Teen Challenge. I left everything, all of our belongings, to go to my sister-in-law's house. And within those 2 weeks, I was able to, God furnished clothing for me and my children. I was able to get my girls in school, get their birth certificates as well as my own, social security cards, just everything that was needed in order to get here. And yeah.
Okay. Well, what was your mindset before Teen Challenge?
I didn't have a mindset. My mindset was get high. I had no motive for a future. Every job that I had failed. I didn't even have the motivation to get up and clean my own house, let alone take care of my children properly.
Well, what is your mindset now since Teen Challenge?
Since Teen Challenge, God has completely restored my mind. I'm looking forward to the future that He has for me and my girls. I know after graduation I'll be going to Branch 15, which is 20 minutes from my children, and I'll be able to have contact with them as much and as often as I want. and I just want to do whatever I need to do in order to get my full parental rights back.
And what did you think God thought of you before Teen Challenge?
I really didn't know about God. I knew the Ten Commandments, and I knew that there was something else besides the life I was living, but I really didn't have any true knowledge of God. God was never really implemented in my life.
And how you think God thinks of you now, since Teen Challenge?
Well, I know that He thinks of me as His child. He gave me my own name months ago, Cherish. So I truly believe that I am who I am because He made me who I am.
And is this the first program you checked into?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you didn't. Okay. And what did you think about when you came to Teen Challenge?
When I first walked into Teen Challenge, I truthfully thought it was a convent. I really thought everybody was putting on a show and that it was a fake persona. I didn't really get it.
So you kind of wonder what you got yourself into and why you were
ma'am.
here.
Yes, actually, I spent one full night here and I decided that this was not the place for me. So I left. And within 2 hours of walking out the front door, I headed right back in the store. So I knew once walking out that I had made a mistake. And I needed to make that mistake in order to see the true lessons of Freedom House Teen Challenge.
And well, what do you think about Teen Challenge now?
It truly saved my life. God used this place as a tool to help me form a relationship with Him and to have a foundation that I can truly stand firm in. And they have showed me what trust and true love really is.
And could you tell us a story of your best experience in Teen Challenge?
I have so many. From the first Christmas that I spent here, and we were able to decorate the house and make stockings. My most memorable Teen Challenge moment was the Kansas City trip. When we moved 16 rooms, I think it was. It was one of the greatest times of my life.
And could you tell us about your best experience with God?
My best experience with God. On my overnight, I went kayaking and we were on the lake Eufaula, and I was able to. God showed me that the change that He has done in me is 100% true. I was once a very nervous person. I would ruin a trip as quick as you could snap your finger. And this particular incident, my youngest daughter, when she's 4 years old, decided to get out of my kayak and get onto my 13-year-old niece's flatboard in the middle of the lake. And I was still able to enjoy myself and enjoy God's scenery. In that moment, I knew I would never be the same.
And what led you up in wanting help?
Um, Knowing that I was going down the same path my mother went down, and I refused to go down that path.
That who?
My mother went down. She abandoned me when I was pretty young in age, and I had made a commitment early on in my life that, for one, I would never do drugs, which failed. The other one was that I would not fail my children the way that she had failed hers. And once I knew I was going to go down that path if I did not make a change, I knew that now was the time. So I called out to God in my dad's truck, and he answered me.
And so how did that make you feel with your mom abandoning you? And how old were you?
I felt rejected. I'm not really sure how old I was. I know I was pretty young. I know she decided to leave all 4 of her children because she decided that drugs had better things to offer her than the responsibility of taking care of her children that she birthed. I can remember several boyfriends that she had. I remember one incident where she chased my father around with a fillet knife, probably coming down off of drugs, I'm sure.
And going back to, you said you felt rejected. Could you go in more detail of that?
The relationship that a girl cherishes the most is the relationship of her mother. And when I hit the realization that I would not have a mother to teach me basics of life, from shaving my legs to how a man should treat you, to how to be a pregnant woman or take care of your first child. A piece of me died. I numbed any type of feeling that I had through music for a very, very long time, which then led into deeper things, drugs, all to numb the feelings of rejection and pain and anger and anguish. But I have been redeemed from rejection. I know now that not one person can fulfill the whole inside of me other than Jesus Christ.
And did you have any family or friends you could confide in, or?
No, ma'am, not until I met my husband. Within that, I could find his mom, but she wasn't really healthy, per se. And then Shane's sister, the one that completely supports me now, she's the only one that I can truly, or could, now I know that I can trust in a lot more people than her. But she was the one person that I could call with any feelings, any anguish, and know that she would listen to me and give me godly counsel for what it was I was dealing with. She would pray with me. At one point, she gave me a book to read on just how to deal with the things that I was dealing with. But I was too about the book in front of me.
Why did you decide to go to a faith-based ministry?
It's a funny thing. I really didn't know that it was faith-based. My sister-in-law asked me what I thought about Teen Challenge, and at the point, I was just to the point I wanted to change. I didn't care how I was going to get the change. I just wanted to change. And just recently, I found out that my father-in-law actually went to Teen Challenge. And although he didn't graduate, he did grasp some godly things. And now he's a full-blown Jesus fanatic. But her herself, she's very acquainted with God and faith. So I just went with her knowledge and support.
Well, what type of people in your life led you up to your addiction?
I really didn't have anybody in my life. At a young age, my mother had left us. Then we were separated. My older two siblings went to live with my grandma, and my younger sister and myself went to foster care for a while. My dad had to prove himself fit to be a father to get us out of state custody. Within that, we were bounced around from place to place because he worked on the road and he knew that was the only way he knew how to support us. So I really didn't have a chance to get close to anybody, and I kind of didn't want to have anybody close to me.
And since your mom abandoned you, you haven't had any contact at all?
I tried when I was 16. She watched me go to prom when I was a freshman, and then over the midst of a few phone calls, vanished again. And then she found me after my third daughter was born, begged me not to hang up the phone, and told me every gruesome detail of my childhood. In that, I decided I no longer wanted any kind of communication or contact with her.
And if you could tell yourself anything 5 years ago, what would it be?
Do not do meth, it will ruin your marriage. A marriage that was once picture perfect. And because of meth and because of sins of this fallen world, I'm shattered into a billion pieces.
And if you could sum your life up in one paragraph?
Once was broken, now I am redeemed.
And this is a tagline for Teen Challenge. Teen Challenge has made me into
A Christ-searching, godly.
Could you actually put that in? Teen Challenge made me into?
Teen Challenge made me into Christ-seeking. I believe that I am a godly woman, and Teen Challenge has made me into a godly woman.
Okay. So since you've been in Teen Challenge, how is your family life now?
Great. My kids are great. They look better than they ever have before. I can look at pictures just from a year ago and pictures of just recently in September and see light in their faces, light that I've never seen, and maybe before it was because I was so delusional that I just couldn't see it. I believe it's because God has opened my eyes and taken the blinders off to the beautiful things of this world. And now I have a really good relationship with my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law, my nieces. They're totally supportive of anything and everything that I do. My sister-in-law, she trusts me to be alone with her children, which is a milestone. My in-laws, they want to talk to me, and they want to fill me with encouragement instead of the negative. And I have a relationship with my stepmom now, which before I never had.
Step. Awesome. You want to get into your relationship with your stepmom?
Yeah.
And see how, and talk about how that changed?
At the age of 13, I gained a stepmom. And at the age of 13, I was fully set in my own ways. I never had to answer to anyone because my dad was never around, and I played mom to my little sister. I can remember at times I would tell her that she was not my mother and that I didn't have to listen to her because she didn't know what I was going through. I put her through a world of pain and sorrow. I even took advantage of saying that she didn't know how kids are because she couldn't have her own. Since being at Teen Challenge, well, actually before coming to Teen Challenge, she told me that she never wanted to be a part of my life, and that I could just forget that she ever existed in our life. After a week, I think, or two of being here, no more than that, probably a month, I decided that I would write her a long letter and describe the change that had already taken place, and to ask her to forgive me because of the things that I had put her through. To ask her to forgive me for not being a daughter that she wanted and not seeing her as a blessing that God had put before my life. With that, I got a letter back stating that she believed that we could have a relationship within this year. God has completely restored our relationship. All the letters that I get are just telling me that they continue to pray for me, and they long for the day I graduate. They're actually going to be here for graduation, as far as I know. So I'm really looking forward to the relationship that God has in store for us.
And also, what scripture first helped you? That's what you stand on.
For a long time, it was Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength. After 8 months into the program, after I found out my husband was with another woman, God sent me to the scripture, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans for hope in the future. And to me, that means that God has a perfect plan for my life, with or without my husband. And his plans are not to hurt me. And I know that the enemy has come to steal, kill, and destroy.
Okay, since your husband, while you were in the program, met another woman, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, at first I was crushed. All that day I was just in kind of a haze, not really understanding why. The reason I came here was to change for the better, to get my life and my marriage back on track. When Miss Love pulled me into her office and told me I was stunned, blown away actually. And then the next day, I told about it all evening into the morning. The next day I asked to go to Miss Love's office and I told her that I needed help to process what was going on inside. And that if I didn't get the help to process, it would drive me right out the door. I had felt a rejection I have never felt before. This man, we had been together for 12 years. We have 3 kids together. He's worked out on the road several times throughout our marriage and being together, and he's never done this before, so I just couldn't understand why at the present time he would do such a thing and then post it on Facebook for all to see. Miss Love gave me tapes from Joyce Meyer called Casting All My Cares Upon You. And within that I was able to fully give God shame and the circumstance that had taken place. And God showed me that if I give Him all the cares of my life, He will turn it out for the good. And within these past couple months, Shane has been doing things that he hasn't done 8 months prior. He's now supporting our kids more so than he ever has before. He's contacting them more. I truly, in my heart, I believe that God is working on him just as well as He is on me. Because in the Bible it states that when you are married, you become one flesh and one accord. And I believe that it's only because of the sins of this world that he was with another woman. And I have to forgive Shane the way that God forgave me, so I can release Shane to God for him to work in. I also believe that God will fully restore